Once upon a time, in a peaceful little village, there lived a small fluffy cat named Miko, who loved looking at the sky more than anything else in the world. Every morning, Miko sat on a green hill and watched colorful birds flying high above the clouds. He watched tiny sparrows dance in the wind and big birds glide through the blue sky. Miko smiled and whispered, "One day, I wish I had wings." The birds heard him and laughed softly. Little Miko cats do not have wings. But Miko kept dreaming. Every day, he imagined himself flying over mountains and rivers and touching the clouds. One sunny morning, Miko stood on a small rock and said, "Today I will fly." He spread out his tiny paws and jumped into the air. For one magical second, he felt like he was flying. Then, whoosh, thump, he landed in a soft pile of hay. Miko stood up and shook his fluffy fur. "Maybe I need bigger wings." The next day, he found colorful feathers near the forest. He tied them carefully to his body and smiled with excitement. "Now, I will finally fly." Miko climbed onto a hill and jumped. The wind blew across his face, and the feathers danced in the air. For a moment, he smiled with hope. Then, flutter, flutter, whoosh. The feathers flew away, and Miko rolled into a bush. Little rabbits giggled, and birds chirped nearby. Miko looked down sadly. Days passed, and Miko tried again and again. He tried leaves. He tried paper wings. He tried asking birds for flying lessons. But nothing worked. Slowly, Miko became sad. He stopped smiling. He stopped running through the fields. He stopped watching the birds. One quiet evening, Miko sat alone under a tree looking at the ground. Suddenly, a soft voice spoke from above. "Why are you sad, little one?" Miko looked up and saw a wise old owl with shining eyes. Miko sighed and said, "Because I want wings more than anything in the world, but I cannot fly." The owl smiled gently. "Come with me, Miko." Miko followed the owl through the magical forest. They walked under glowing fireflies and sparkling trees. They climbed higher and higher until they reached the tallest mountain. The stars above looked bright and beautiful. The owl smiled and asked Miko, "What do you see?" Miko looked around with wide eyes. "I see beautiful stars shining, clouds, and the whole world below us." The owl nodded and asked, "How did you reach this place?" Miko looked at his paws and smiled a little. "I climbed here with my paws." The owl smiled warmly. "Birds can fly, fish can swim, rabbits can jump, and cats can climb, leap, and explore. Everyone has their own special gift." Miko looked at his tiny paws, and for the first time, he smiled proudly. The next morning, Miko returned to the hill. Birds flew over his head again, but this time, Miko did not feel sad. He smiled and shouted, "Have fun up there, my friends." Then Miko raced through fields, climbed tall trees, and explored secret places in the forest. Soon he found sparkling caves, hidden rivers, and magical flowers. Animals started asking Miko to help them find places better than him. One little bird flew down and smiled. "Miko, you are amazing." Miko smiled and looked at the sky. "I do not have wings, but I found something even better. I found happiness in being myself." And from that day, Miko still looked at the sky and dreamed big dreams. But he always remembered that you do not need wings to rise high in life.